and my name is Bernie Wall. I'm an IELTS trainer specialising in working with students who need Band 7 and 8, for those of you that haven't seen me before. And welcome to another video in the IELTS Learning Tips series. And today I'm going to look at a very old chestnut, which is yes, no, not given, true, false, not given. And I find that this comes up again and again with students who are being challenged by reading. So I want to look at 6 steps or 6 things that I think you need to do when trying to find the answers to yes, no, not given. And I'll go through each of those in turn with an example. So this video might be a little bit longer than normal, but I urge you to stay on and look at the examples, because if you make a mistake with any one of these 6 steps, you can get the wrong answer. And the more you practice these 6 things when you can't find the answer easily, the better your score will be, and the more confident you will be about finding the answers to these type of questions. So as ever, I have a slideshow and we'll have a look at that now. So obviously, if you can manage these questions and get them all right, you're going to increase your score. And quite often where students are stuck at a particular score, I was talking to a student yesterday who's stuck at 25, 26, and every time it comes out around 25, 26, maybe 27 now and again. Then you have to do something with one of the question types or 2 of the question types in order to break that deadlock. So quite often the area that students are stuck with, or one of the question types that causes the most problems, are these yes, no, not given and true, false, not given, in particular when they come in section 2 or 3. So let's move on. And here are 6 things that I believe you should do for each of these questions, and some of them you must do if the answer's not popping out when you go to the text. So the first one is focus on the question. Don't focus on the text. The answer or the clue to the answer is always in the question, as is the case for most of the reading questions that you get in IELTS. Think about exactly what it is you need to find out. Be very careful where you have a negative statement, because you need a little bit of gymnastics to work out the answers to these. Keywords are absolutely vital, and as many as possible from question to text. If you cannot find the answer, go back to the question. Don't start looking everywhere else in the text. Go back to the question, because in the question there may be a word you've overlooked that will be the clue that you need. So go back to the question, look at it again. What have I got to find out? And finally, make sure you record the correct answer. If it's yes, no, not given, put yes, no, not given. If it's true, false, put true, false. Okay, so let's start with the first one, which is take note of each word. Everything has a function. Okay, some of them like the, may not be important for the answer, but others like adverbs and adjectives will be. You've got to ask yourself, why is that word there? Okay, choose good keywords. You need some for location. Typically numbers, names are easy, but there will be others that will help you find the place. And then you need some for the meaning, some to actually help you find what it is you're looking for. And then please take note of other small words, as I mentioned before, adjectives, adverbs. Sometimes the tense that's used might be important. Okay, and if you have a word that appears a lot, so let's say one of the examples I'm going to show you is about zoos. Zoo is everywhere in the text. So in the question, look at the other words that are with zoo, because that might help you to find the location. Okay, so here's an example. Right, so this is about oil shale, and I've highlighted what I think are the main keywords. All right, shale extraction possibly, but this whole passage was about that. So in the past, amount of, depend, and price of oil. So let's paraphrase this and look at what exactly we need to find out, which is, does the oil price correlate in some way with the amount of oil extracted or oil shale extracted? So is there a correlation between these two things? That's what we're looking for. Oil price or price of oil would be a good place to find it, because presumably in the text there is a paragraph which is to do with the price of oil. So look for that. And note that you only need information here relating to the past. If it's talking about now or future, it's irrelevant to the question. So be very careful. So we only want to know what happened in the past. Okay, so that's one step you need to take. So let's have a look at another step which we did in that last one, and that is paraphrasing the question. What exactly do you need to discover? Be very clear on this. Don't make up something that's not in the question. If you can create a yes/no question, that can be very helpful, because then you can answer it yes or no, and if you can't answer yes or no, then it must be not given. Okay, here's an example. We're still with the oil shale, and I've highlighted the words that I think are key. Okay, so what do we need to find out? We need to find out how oil shale was formed. It's that simple. So we need to find that information in the text. Now, notice I've highlighted on continents in a slightly different color. And that's because I don't really understand the relevance of these two words in the question. I'm pretty sure that what I need to find out is how oil shale was formed, but I'm not quite sure what on continents means, but I'm keeping it in mind. Okay. So I'm going to look for millions of years ago, because numbers and number words are easy to find. But I'm also keeping in mind originated. So it might be origin, form, started, some word like that. Okay. And the question that I've created to help me answer the question, to help me find the answer, is, did oil shale begin as large forests on continents millions of years ago? Now, if I can find yes or no to that answer, then that helps me. If I can't, then I have to be looking at not given. In fact, in the passage, if I remember, the oil shale began in the sea. And that was the significance of on continents, because on continents told me that this was to do with land. So it helped me to be a bit clearer about my answer, because it didn't start in forests or as forests, it began in the sea. And therefore, I seem to remember the answer was no. So, you know, by bearing these things in mind, it helps you to be quite clear about your answer. Okay, step 3, watch out for negatives. This could be not, nobody, hasn't, didn't, any of these things. You have to get your head around the question. Often the text will be the opposite of what is in the question. Not necessarily always, but quite often it is, which makes it that little bit more difficult to answer. So find out exactly what the question is asking you. And there's a little trick to do this by making a yes/no question. And here's an example. So this is the zoo question. There are some species, that's a good key word. I haven't highlighted zoos because zoos is all over this text, which can no longer, there's your negative, be found in the wild. So I want to know about species in the wild and not found anymore. So I've asked myself this question, are some species only found in zoos? So notice I've made my question positive, i.e. not in the wild. And this takes away the no longer, which means it's slightly easier to find the information. You might do the opposite if the text were in the negative, but it's the negative questions that can be the tricky thing. And we can put the negative in when we've got the information. So some species I'm going to use for my location because zoos is going to be everywhere. And I actually found this sentence: some species only exist in captivity. Captivity is the same as zoos. Only is the opposite of no longer. So it means that they are no longer in the wild. So in fact, in this case, the answer was true. So notice I found the information with a positive question, but then I was able to put the negative, so they're no longer in the wild because they only exist in captivity. So by doing that small bit of mental gymnastics, it's possible to find the answer. Okay, number 4, as many words as possible. The words are there for a reason. An exam setter would not put an adjective or an adverb into a question just for fun. It will have a purpose, mostly. Be curious. Think about when I was looking at the continents in number 2. I was curious about why that was in the question because it didn't seem to add anything. Yet when I found the answer, it helped to confirm that the answer was no. Okay, don't overlook words that seem unimportant to you. They may not be. If you think about the other one where we had the past. Now, I've done that reading with students and they have missed that and they've given the wrong answer because they were looking at what was happening now instead of what happened in the past. Okay, here's an example. Again, it's a zoo one. And here are the keywords. So excel, transmitting information to the public. Okay, so I'm paraphrasing it. Are the zoos good at communicating with the public? And I've highlighted always in a different color because I think that might be important. Okay, so the public is probably the best way to find this information in the text. But notice that the question is in the present perfect, which tells us that this is a connection between something that happened in the past and now. And the word always tells us something else. So are they good at communicating with the public, which is my paraphrase, is not enough. We need to find out whether they have always been good at this, whether they were good at it in the past, and whether that ability to communicate with the public continued into the present. So we're looking at something a little bit more detailed. And in fact, I think in the text it said that they were now very good at doing this, something that they had not done well in the past. So the answer was no. So be very careful of the question and how it's worded and what tenses it uses. Sometimes that can be important too. Okay, keep going back. If you don't do this, you'll forget keywords, and this happens a lot. People jump on a keyword and then try and squeeze the information into the answer, and in fact, they're in the wrong place. You can be distracted, as I mentioned there, by just 1 or 2 of your keywords and forget more important ones. Or you'll look at irrelevant information, or you'll be in the wrong place. And these things can happen very easily when you start to get into the text. So it's important to, if the answer's not clear, especially, to go back to the question. Okay, here's a brilliant example, which I did very recently in my IELTS reading masterclass. And we had this passage and it went wrong. And this is why it went wrong. So this was the question. So we've got damage to paintings and changes in weather of the region. So with the students, there were 2 of them, we went into the text and we found this sentence, which looks perfect. We've got favourable climatic conditions, weather, and the imagery, paintings, but we've got in a remarkable state, which means that it was good. There was no damage. Therefore, we chose the answer no. It looked very like no. However, before we had a chance to actually write that down, the two students went on and read the next paragraph. I don't know why, but they felt that they needed to do this to confirm the answer. And what they did at that point was to change the answer to yes. And the reason they did that was because they found this sentence. The imagery, here we've got paintings, painted, fragile and unstable, damage. Okay, can you see what went wrong? What went wrong is that they had completely forgotten about changes in the weather. So the key to this question was that weather had caused the damage. Here, we're looking at chemical and mineral qualities. It's got nothing to do with weather. But each of these students would have given the wrong answer because they had forgotten about the weather. And I think that is a wonderful example of how this can go wrong very, very easily. Okay, and finally, please write yes, no, or true, false. Concentrate. It's lack of concentration. I don't know, I suspect if you do the wrong one, it will be marked wrongly. I have no firm evidence for this, but I think it would be because there is a subtle difference between the two types of question. But the technique for finding the answers is exactly the same. But it is a lack of concentration. And you could lose marks by putting the wrong one down. And it would be tragic to make silly, avoidable errors like this. So I hope that helps with the yes, no, not given, true, false, not given questions. Go through these steps, think about the pitfalls. I've written an article in a little bit more detail on this, which is on my website, IELTSlearningtips.com, so you can head over there and look at that. Also, if you want to sign up there, then there are some free resources that are available to you and other information that could be useful for your IELTS training. So thank you for watching. Please feel free to share it with other people and make comments underneath or ask any questions that come out of watching this video. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you.